Okay, here we go. I don't know why I'm always laughing. They say, why is that guy always laughing? Okay, is he not right? Is he. Look, there's gonna be a day when people say, look, why is that guy so positive? I don't like that. We need to stop that. Let's clean that up. I'll be like, look, sorry, sir. Here's the problem. I was born this way. I just can't help it. I tried to deny it. I try to listen to people like my parents, my wife, my son. He's only 3, but he's sending me messages and I'm not hearing them because I just. Excuse me. I got to take the coughing out of the equation, because it's occasional, but I don't like it on camera because then people are going to be like, oh, that guy's always coughing, even though the only time I coughed was the last time on camera. But whatever. Okay, so my son's sleeping, so I can't speak so loud. So this is very informal again. Very informal again. No, so caveat. So this is what I'd like to say. First and foremost, this is just for fun. This is absolutely just for fun, and I want to take it one step further and say that some of the opinions that I state probably aren't even my opinions. I think that's the beautiful thing about philosophy is you can develop ideas and sound like you really agree with something, but you don't. You're just really good at developing arguments. So I want to say that first and foremost, I'm not invested in anything that I say. So if you disagree with what I say and you mention that, I'll be like, you know what? I probably disagree too. So don't get it confused. Like just because someone's really good at being passionate. I think I'm speaking too loud and my son's waking up. But okay, so I want to touch back on the Rolex versus Tudor because I just like it. It's fun. So I'm going to talk about it, and I realized that you can incorporate other things to get your message across or your point. This is just I guess what am I trying to accomplish? That's what people say. Look, why am I going to waste my time watching your podcast talk about stupid shit? And I said, well, look, it's just for fun. It's called entertainment. Okay, you don't have to agree or disagree, or maybe I just sparked an idea. That's all I'm saying. So this is it right here in a nutshell. I feel like if you can't explain yourself simply, then you don't even understand your own idea. Okay, so this is conceptually concepts. Okay, Tudor, bam. When I think of Tudor as a brand, as a marketing image, I guess, this is Tudor, right? This is what I see as Tudor. This is what I see as Rolex, a king, Sorry, I wrote these down yesterday. So this is, who is this? Okay, so Tudor. See, that's why I have notes, so I can remember, because sometimes I forget what I write. I don't know if you could see this all. I know, I think I bridged them so they're the same height. But okay, excuse me. I wanted to talk about 2 movies, First Night and Gladiator. 2 epic movies. I think they'll kind of, at least at the very least, even if you don't agree with me, they'll kind of show you my point. So Tudor I see as the Crusader. And they say, well, what do you mean by Crusader? Warrior of faith. So that's why he wears the helmet, right? Because it's about minimal personal identity. So the Crusader has the minimum personal identity, right? He is literally being tasked with molding and changing the world, right? Changing the world by the use of force. But by doing so, he's really acting on behalf of the king, right? So you have and this is, sorry, I'll go back. Dude, you're not even, people will be like, yo, you're not even prepared for what you're saying. I know, because it's the morning. I just woke up. I'm just having fun. I made my coffee. I got some water. You gotta give me a moment to get in my ideas. And maybe it's good to kind of fumble through stuff because, I'm not perfect. So Rolex. King, right? King. So I love this show. This is from Netflix, Versailles. Truly, such a great show. This is the actor George Paul Blagden. He's playing Louis XIV of France from the Netflix show Versailles. And this is maximum personal identity. And obviously this isn't my opinion, but a king, this is why I say maximum personal identity. So you're king. You got your face on the money. You got you're involved in everything. Your opinion, your whatever influence is in everything. So that I think that's what makes you king, right? Conceptually. And then you have, so these are, in my opinion, these are kind of opposite ends of the same spectrum, right? To a certain extent. Look, don't just, just roll with me. Just roll with it. You're never going to see my idea unless you're willing to follow me down this pathway. So Tudor, Rolex, just conceptually, okay? So now what you're saying, and then now you tell me, well, look, I want to bridge this gap. I want the Tudor Rolex, or I want the Rolex Tudor. And I was thinking about this, and I think my ideas will develop. So what happens is this, I'll present to you the ideal. So you want the Tudor Rolex, you want the Crusader king, the warrior of faith that's also a king. And I think the best depiction or representation of that is right there, right? Sean Connery in First Night. If you haven't seen the movie, so good. I haven't seen it in a while. I think I'm going to buy it. I have to look today to see if it's even on on 4K. If it's on 4K, I'm going to get on 4K. If it's not, I'm going to get on Blu-ray. But it's such a good movie. And I think most people would agree with me that this is the warrior king that you desire, right? He's a little bit older, wiser, measured. He's open to listening to other ideas. He's got a round table, for Christ's sake, right? So he's the king that's trying, in my opinion, he's trying his best to try to connect with his people at every level, right? At every level. Not just his inner circle, but then, you go down in the circles. But so that's the ideal, right? So that's what we want. Let me just look at my notes here. And that is a more dominant. So I think we all have these two characters within us, right? Because we're the king of our own castle. And that's what I believe. Your home is your castle. I don't know if that's like just a Western idea, but your home is your castle. So if you come onto my property, this is my castle and I'm going to defend it, especially if I feel that you're unjustly here. So whatever you can take and put into the micro, what is it? I took like one semester of economics, macro, micro. My point is, you take the small, you can make it big. So, excuse me. This is what you want, right? But the cautionary tale is, right, you could end up with the opposite, right? Someone who's born into this kind of very prestigious royal, and then kind of you give them just the romanticized version of the Crusader, and I think you end up with this, or possibly. I'm not saying you do. Like, there's no, there's no like absolutes in the world, right? You could have the king that also becomes a Crusader that doesn't end up Commodus, and so this is what I, just in my mind, what I envision. This is nothing about. These are all about the characters in the movies, and I don't like. Here's the funny part. I don't like to talk about the actual actors because that's a person who's playing a character. I like to focus on the character in the movie because that's what, like some people, they like to convolute things, and I'm not trying to convolute stuff. It's like the message is about the character. What an actor does 10 years, 20 years later, it has nothing to do with the role. So, and even if he was doing something crazy during the filming, I'm focusing. Here's the thing, you can't focus on every aspect of every person's life. It's impossible because the reality is the majority of what people do isn't recorded. But whatever. Look, I'm getting off on a tangent. Look, this morning it's a little slower. You can't be on point every morning. But what I'm saying is you might end it with the Commodus, the Antagonist. And this is Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin Phoenix. They're like, what are these sounds you make? Okay, look, there was a time in my life I watched Police Academy, and I wanted to be that dude that could make all the sounds with his Well, I don't know what it was. Why was it when I was growing up there were so many cop movies? But they were actually depicting cops as like decent human beings, and that's what I realized too is, when people knock organizations, an organization's only as good as the people who are currently in it. So you don't have to dismantle an organization. You just need transparency and new, fresh people in the organization. What are you going to tear down an organization to? Like the organization. That's why when people are like, oh, this back in the day, these cops used to be so cool. They were like respectful. Yeah, maybe it was the culture. Maybe it was the people. Maybe The reality is we're all the problem, because it's not like we selectively pull out. The reality is we don't selectively pull out the best of society. It's just we have a selection process, but you kind of just end up with a percentage of the population in your organization. So if people want to say like this, you can't. There's some cities with 60, 80,000 people who are involved in that law enforcement organization. You can't tell me that they're all bad. Come on, what are you going to do with 80,000 people? You're going to just like banish them? All I'm saying is we got to be more realistic on how we deal with people, and we have to be more realistic with who we blame. Because here's the one thing people tell me. Look, I'm getting off on a tangent because it's my show, okay? It's my YouTube channel. I can get off on whatever tangent I want, okay? You don't like my tangent, you make a YouTube channel and you talk shit about me. And then maybe it'll be entertaining, maybe I'll watch it. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so sorry. Oh my God. It's too early, but I'm pushing through. I'm pushing through here. So sorry. I lost my train of thought. You know, I got all these side hustles. I'm working too many side hustles is what I'm saying. No, so I'll go back to Commodus. What would I so if you ask me what do you think, what do I think is the problem, or what do I think happens? Let's do that, because I can't think of anything. So I think what happens is, so if you're think about this, you're born into royalty, right? You're born into the Rolex lifestyle. So you have this perception of how you perceive reality, right? And it's very specific. It's only to you, because the reality, like even when you talk about the planet, I don't know what percentage, but even if you just said 30% of the planet doesn't even have running water. Well, okay, so even like the poorest person in the United States or whatever country has access to running water, and they don't have to go like 20 miles, or they don't have to walk 20 miles to get to running water. So you're already at like a serious advantage. But then let's take it to the extreme, and then you take this situation. So you have somebody who has everyone catering to them, right? And they think that a fixed mindset, right? I'm born into this. So I think when you start adding in the taking of life by that person, maybe they start to think that that's their destiny, to just do whatever. Maybe that's what causes someone to look at people as objects, because you're kind of born into like a idea that everyone's catering to you. And if everyone's catering to you, the next step after everyone catering to you is, people, if you don't, it's like a tissue, right? If you blow your nose, you just throw the tissue away. And I think there's people out there who look at other human beings as Kleenex, but I'm not going to focus on that. If someone says, here's the thing, I try not to inject emotion into everything. And here's I guess the difference in human beings is, if I say something, it's not because I'm saying it, like if let's say hypothetically, for 10 years I felt like society was using me as a metaphorical Kleenex. I can move on from that. I could be like, you know what? That's your loss. You didn't want to see me having anything after that. You blew your nose and you thought, oh, that's it. But you forgot that maybe there was something else that I could provide you with. So, and then if you don't want me to do that, then I'll just do it on my own, and I think I'm a pretty patient guy. So I think I can hold out for a couple more decades. And, and that's the other thing. Sorry. So now I'm gonna completely just go off on a different tangent. Some people, I was actually, Yanni, shout out to my boy Yanni Pappas, dude. That guy's one of my heroes. I got a lot of heroes. I got a lot of people I look up to, but he was on the Michaela Peterson podcast. And one thing I found interesting, I'll just comment on one thing. I think she asked him, do you think things are going to get better or worse? But it was never really, do you think things are going to stay the same? And actually, that would be, if I was just making my hypothesis, I think things are going to stay exactly how they are right now, maybe for another decade, just because it's far easier to deal with people in small groups as they fractionalize outside of the normal society than it is to create a situation that's far worse and you have more people causing problems. So I think things are going to stay the same. I really do. I don't see any reason why the pharmaceutical companies, the government, I understand. Like, this is why I don't even like to comment on stuff like this, because I'm not saying this because it's what I want. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying it because I want that to happen. I'm saying because that's what it seems like to me from my observation of the world for the last 40 years, is that this might, we have a clock and we want things to end. But, it's just like, hypothetically, it's just like if you were in Guantanamo Bay being tortured, you're like, oh, today's going to be the last day I'm tortured. Today's going to be the last day. But the reality is that could go on for decades, So I think the first step in actually making progress within yourself and being more positive is just accepting the fact that this is the reality, right? I think the Japanese do that the best. And the best example of that for me is Mr. Baseball. When he was getting in the bathtub with Yoko, I think it was Yoko, I forget her name. But the biggest thing was just acceptance. It's hot. Yeah, just accept it. And that's how, and I think that way with myself. It's like, maybe I just need to accept pain because, sometimes I'm just really in great discomfort and I don't want to talk to anyone just because just my whole body is like just aching. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I just got to like embrace the pain, embrace the suck. Okay. So let me move on. Let me keep going. So this is the king we want. This is what we might get. This is how I see Tudor. And I just love that image. I do, because it's maybe the concept of Two-Face too is this one. This king, the idea of the person who, actually, you know what? I think I was about to say the king is the one that's free, but I think maybe the Crusader is the one that's free. So Two-Face, you have the one side that's completely controlled. You have no freedom. But so in order to convince yourself that you do have freedom, you impose your will on the rest of the planet, basically, because you're king, or your country or whatever. And I think the opposite is absolute freedom, where you're just acting in service of another. And that gives you the freedom to have an identity within yourself. So the truth is inside here, right? The truth is in this right there. I don't know. I'll play with it more. Okay, so I'm going to keep going with this. So I just wanted to finish risk versus reward. How much do you want, King Arthur? That's the real question you got to ask yourself, because I think the reality is we're all going to go through this, even within our own life. And, I think what we see as above, so below, right? I forget where I heard that, but what you see in the heavens is recreated down here, right? But it's vice versa. What I see inside of myself, I naturally vomit onto the world. So I'm a huge fan of King Arthur. I took a semester class in college solely dedicated to reading King Arthur stuff. Don't ask me anything, because here's the problem. This is what I don't understand about colleges. I wouldn't do it the way they do it. It's like, I would much prefer to take one book. This is the way I saw it. Like even that King Arthur class. I don't remember how many books we had to read, but it was an ungodly amount of books. And I'm a slow reader, right? So, and the reality is I probably only read 20% of each book, because I wouldn't have been possible for me to do all the work for that one class, let alone all the other classes you're taking. So I think I would have gotten more out of it if we focused on one book, but we really just line per line, just like, and that's the other thing, is I love doing that. I love dissecting the actual material, because if you just go line per line, it's almost like a song. I was watching Lex Friedman. I forget the gentleman's name, the gentleman from Wu-Tang. But sometimes you have to hear lyrics really slowly, and I think you get a lot out of it. And I think sometimes you have to hear lyrics over and over and over again, and then you get more out of it. It's like everything else in life, and I know this is obvious, we all know it, but you get what you put in, and I think that's true. Like if I'm listening to a song and I'm listening over and over, and maybe I learn a little bit about the band, Maybe I'll learn a little bit about the situation that was going on during that time period. The more I kind of invest into understanding what's going on, I think the more I'm going to get out of it, because sometimes people will surprise you. They really will. Like some people will. That's what I noticed about being a cop and dealing. And when you say, well, what does that mean? I dealt primarily with homeless people, and so the majority, just the area I was in, the majority of people that I dealt with were transient. We had a lot of homeless camps. That was my daily, my daily activities were dealing with transient people, domestic violence. Now I think it's changed, so I'm not going to speak for anyone, and then, you had your robberies and your sexual assaults and your, all just everything, right? But the majority, I would say probably 80% was domestic violence, disturbances, like either at businesses or at prowlers, people jumping over fences, like trying to get into houses, or, robberies. You had a whole gambit of stuff. I'm sorry. I'm not even gonna try to classify it, but, and I don't even know where I was going with that. All I'm saying is, I don't even remember what I was saying. It's, maybe that's the problem of waking up at 6:57 or 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning, and then trying to open my computer and be like, okay, start telling us about what you were thinking about. I'm like, all right, well, I was thinking about Rolex and Tudor and just how cool they are. But I like them for different reasons, And here's the thing. Actually, maybe this is a good segue, is that I love both. Are you kidding me? This is an amazing show. Versailles on Netflix is a fucking awesome show. Definitely worth watching. And the character Louis, here, look, love him, hate him, I don't know, but I didn't see anything. Look, I like it. I enjoy it. And that's probably why when I thought Rolex, and then in my mind, I'm like, Rolex, king. Okay, who's just first image that pops in my head? Bam, right here. I said the same thing. Tudor, Crusader, Warrior of Faith. First image, bam. This is actually, I'm not going to say this literal image, but in my mind, that's what I saw. In my mind, I saw a Crusader, a warrior that's masked, so you don't see who he is. He's only all you see is the cross, the shield, and the sword, and a man, right? Or actually, that could be a woman. That could be a woman. Who knows? Maybe that, and that's the other thing. A lot of people, they knock the Catholic Church because of what's going on, and like I said earlier, your organization is only as good as the people who are currently in it. And what people don't understand, or they'd like to conveniently forget, is there were time periods in Catholic history where priests could have children. There were. But the problem lies in the consolidation of power. So when that happens, you have now priests that have children. You're breaking up the power line that goes straight back to Rome. So I understand why the Pope doesn't want priests to have children. But let's not forget that there was a time period when that happened. And maybe that was a necessary thing. And so all I'm saying is we don't need to actually dismantle the whole system. We just need to maybe change the people who are involved. I'm just saying, maybe we need to say, look, I probably, honestly, I wanted to have a family, but if I could have had a family and been a priest too, I probably would have done it. And that's the other thing too, is the depiction also as the Pope, the way you see the Pope, and in your, here's the thing, you're born, and even if you're 60 years old, whatever, you've seen 60 years of something, but that doesn't mean it's always been that way. We've had popes that led armies, that literally led armies on the battlefield. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that the times change, and that all I'm saying is, maybe we need to have women priests, and then the men be the nuns. We lock up all the men in the nunnery, and we don't let them have access to, look, this is what they say. Look, buddy, look, St. Joseph's Church. I'm like, look, I'm not representing his church. First of all, everything that I say is not a representation of St. Joseph's Church. That's the first thing I want to say, okay? Me, I'm being silly. All I wanted was the picture, okay? This is about the picture, but Um, maybe we just need to take the people who are causing the problems right now, put them in the building, we lock them up all together, we let them sort it out. You know, do what you got to do in there. You know, you're all adults. That's what I tell everybody. Even when I say my wife, I say to whoever, I say, look, we're all adults. You do whatever you want. The second you're not in my vicinity, I don't know what you're doing. And I'm not going to spend all my time tracking what everybody else is doing. Okay, I got my own ideas. I got my own challenges. And I want to move forward with my life. But what I'm saying is, you know, and then maybe we take all the women, maybe we take all the nuns out and we ask them to... All I'm saying is, look, maybe we just need to mix up the ideas is all I'm saying. You know, as people take it to the extremes, they're like, that guy bumped into me. And you're like, all right, well, that's not against the law, bro. You know, or, well, I mean, technically, did he leave a mark? And you're like, no, okay. It's just like people's just fit. And they're like you could see the wheels turning in people's heads. Like, I know you want that guy to go to jail, but he didn't do anything wrong. That's the reality. And no words that come out of your mouth that you make up are going to create a situation where he does go to jail. Does that make sense? Like, everybody wants to think like they can control everybody else with words. But the reality is, over the course of 10 years, people said to me everything under the sun that they were going to do to me, to my wife, to my son. Who knows? All right. I mean, it's just, and who knows if they did it, right? Who knows if all these dudes had sex with my wife? I don't know. We're all adults, right? You do what you got to do, right? Same thing. Like, I can't count the number of people who told me they were going to come and kill me. So I'm still waiting. You know where I'm at. I've made it obvious where I'm at. If you want to come for me, then come for me. Okay. So, and that's the other thing I say is not everyone's law enforcement experience is the same. You know, yeah, I was only a cop for 10 years, but in those 10 years, we lost 8 officers. In those 10 years, we had the West Coast version of 9/11 in Las Vegas, in our town. In those 10 years, we had an officer that was murdered in his own home while he was just relaxing at night. In those 10 years, we had 2 officers that were killed by radical domestic terrorists that were trying to start a revolution. So all I'm saying is, not everyone's experience of anything is going to be the same, you know? Yeah, I had a very short career, but there's a lot of things that occurred. You know, after Millie was murdered in his house, you know, I can't remember for how many years after that I would sleep with a gun in my hand. I would, because I'm like, you know what, fuck this shit. You want to come in my own home? Let's do this, baby. You know, like, I'm just saying, like, you know, like, these things affect you, and you can judge me or you could say whatever, but the reality is you don't know. You really don't, you know, because not every experience is the same. So that's why I think it's very dangerous to overgeneralize, right? We're like, this group of people do that. This group of people do that. I mean, come on. I saw good and bad in everything, everywhere I went. You know, when I went to the same thing, you know, like, some people might say, like, you know, you get numb to people or to taking reports because you take tens of thousands of reports. And so maybe you don't inject the same level of compassion in every single call. But, you know, people also have to realize is you're a human being. You know, you have a family life. You might have kids. You might have a situation going on at home, and now you're listening to somebody who, through the course of maybe a few years or a decade or whatever, you've dealt with maybe that same person multiple times. Or all I'm saying is we're all human. So I'm not going to judge anybody for anything. And I realize that, you know, I don't want to be around people who I feel like are constantly judging me, you know, and that's why I don't reach out to certain people, because I'm like, you know what, I just want to be able to speak with people cordially and enjoy myself and have a good time. I'm not looking for someone who's going to be nitpicking every single word that I say and then trying to come back like 6 months later and say, you said, I'm like, dude, that's why I'm like, you know what, in a lot of ways I actually think that maybe as humans we were just meant to be alone. I don't know, because I sometimes I'm like, you know, I don't mind being alone. I really don't. And I like the fact that, there's this thing of YouTube. Just discovery for me. I know everybody else has been using YouTube for decades, and I'm just like, this is so cool because I can interact people through the computer screen. I don't actually have to I can change the level of interaction, I guess. Oh man, I think this is like 30 minutes, but I enjoyed it. It's long drawn out. I'm gonna get better. That's why I tell people I'm gonna get better. Okay, that you think you were born a good public speaker, that's not true. I think it takes time. So that's why I'm glad I only get 3 or 4 views. Most of them I think are me viewing my own videos, but I like looking at my videos. Okay, thank you for your time. And by thank you for your time, I'm talking to myself because I'm like, thank you for watching yourself, bro. It's like, no, I'm just kidding. All right. Have a good day. Love you. Bye.